Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Top of the List with myself, RB, and my co-host Dom. To
What's
my
up, everybody?
left, right, depending on your perspective, or for those of you listening, you'll hear his voice as well. We will be reviewing today the newest Planet of the Apes trilogy. Those being Rise, Dawn, and War for the Planet of the Apes. All fantastic films by my accounts. I saw a couple of these in the theaters. I know you saw all three, correct, Dom?
I mean, I don't know how many of them I saw in the theaters,
Oh,
bro,
okay.
but like I definitely saw War in theaters,
Okay.
and I think Dawn too, but Rise I got on like a rental or
Really?
something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rise is the only, or no, I saw Rise and I saw Dawn in the theaters. I did not see
I
War.
might have seen them all in theaters.
Okay.
I honestly
Yeah.
can't remember. They came out the first one was like in 2010.
2010, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they came out a little while ago.
Either
A decade
way,
ago now. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
Huh?
over a decade.
Dude,
Yeah.
we're old, man. We're freaking old, bro.
Yeah. Well, either way, big fans of these films. Of course, based off of the 1968 film Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston.
Chuck Heston.
Yes, Chuck Heston. One of an all-time great, and even before that, I was unaware of this, but a novel written by Peter Boole,
Right.
same person who wrote Bridge on the River Kwai.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you seen Bridge on the River Kwai?
I have not seen or read it.
Got to see that one.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Yes. Well, the book, I believe, the Planet of the Apes book, Planet du Singe. I don't speak French, but Singe, written in 1962. Then the first film, 1968, and of course, we had a long series of films after that, and then a revamp in 2001 that was awful, and then of course these in 2010. But
most of those films not very good, except for the one with Chuck Heston.
Right, of course. The original. I was going to say, are you a fan of the original series? I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
I think I've seen the first three, which were Planet of the Apes. I think Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember the third one with Ricardo Montalban where they go back in time, but I really like that one.
There is one where they go back in time that's actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
But most of them are actually pretty forgettable. You know?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Battle for the Planet of the Apes, forgettable.
Right.
All of those are pretty forgettable. The first one was gold, though. I mean, it was like a extended version of a Twilight Zone episode.
Absolutely, including that twist at the end.
Yep.
But when they made these new films, they didn't want to make remakes. They wanted to put a different perspective, put us in a different timeline.
Definitely a reboot.
Yeah.
Definitely a reboot.
Absolutely loved how they executed it. So I think we should just jump right in.
Let's start with the first one here.
Absolutely.
Let me get out. I got to show it to all the people on YouTube and those of you listening on audio. I'm now showing my collector's edition Blu-ray set of the trilogy. Of course, we're going to start off with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Ryan, I'm going to let you lead off on this one. I think this is your favorite one, right?
This is without a doubt my favorite one. Like I said, had watched the Chuck Heston version, 1968, countless times with my dad when it's on Sci-Fi or whatever channel it comes on, AMC sometimes.
Yeah.
To me, that's a 10 out of 10. This one I was a little hesitant to see, but when I saw what they did with it, I think they hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
I think James Franco is incredible in it.
Underrated performance from him in this one. Yeah. He is phenomenal.
As well as John Lithgow.
Incredible.
Incredible performance.
Definitely.
I love the character development of Caesar.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not quite a masterpiece just because, I think, I don't know how iconic you can say it is, but it's as close as you can. I'm giving this one a 9.5 out of 10. I can't say enough about this film. Saw it in theaters. Like I said, was skeptical because I'm such a fan of the original film. But how they did it, almost a prequel to the original. I love how they executed that.
The more I'm thinking about it now, I think I did see this one in theaters because there's one moment in this movie, an unforgettable moment of cinema when Caesar first speaks. And I remember being in the theater and everyone's breath was taken away.
Without a doubt.
Absolutely beautifully executed moment there. And I definitely saw this one in theaters. And walking out of the theater, I was like you, Ryan. I thought, wow, this is a 10 out of 10. Amazing. Yep. Now that I've seen the other two films, I kind of, this one has my lowest rating.
Right.
But I personally think this is one of the best trilogies ever made. It's up there with a trilogy Ryan has yet to see. Lord of the Rings is the only one to do as well as this. I think For me, Lord of the Rings, every movie is like a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
But I mean, like, this is as damn close as you can get.
We got to find I say an afternoon. We got to find like a whole weekend that we just want to sit down and watch that trilogy.
Yeah, but yeah. So for me, this one, 9 out of 10. An amazing movie. You know, we usually say anything that's 9 or above is a must see.
Yep.
You know, great is, yeah, you could watch it more than once, but 9 and above is must see. And I'd say every movie in this trilogy, I think at least, is a must see.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, let's talk a little bit about this film.
Yeah.
And the story arc for it, because for those of you who have not seen the original Planet of the Apes, it stars, as we said, Charlton Heston, who crash lands on this planet, an unknown planet where apes are the intelligent life form and humans are sort of these primal creatures.
Yeah, and none of that happens in this movie.
No, none of that happens in this
movie. The biggest
movie.
surprise for me, really.
Right, but we almost, and that's what this whole trilogy is really. Yeah. It's a prequel of building up how that changed from our timeline from our time to the time where Charlton Heston crash lands.
It's part of the genius of the people that wrote this trilogy.
Yes.
You know, it explains what happened before the original film. But in the same way, it's not really connected at all. But then it kind of is vaguely connected. It's just like brilliant. It's like, if you were a fan of that original film, there's a lot you can take from it. If you've never seen a Planet of the Apes movie, you could watch this one and still think it's a fantastic film.
Absolutely.
And that's what's so great about this one.
I think they may have made it that way to bring a younger generation into the original one. You know, you watch these three and then you can go back and watch the 1968 version.
Absolutely.
Now, I will say something that all three of these execute brilliantly, but what I loved about Rise is the emotional pull.
Man,
the John Lithgow storyline, why we're creating this serum and testing it on apes and the apes are getting intelligent. He's trying to get a cure for Alzheimer's for his ailing, aging father. And I think that's incredible. I think some of the scenes where he has to give Caesar up and
anything that Caesar's entire tragic birth and story is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
This is for the whole trilogy. All three of these films, there's moments where I will cry in these movies. They're so moving. I watched them with my mom, and my mom wasn't a big fan of the original Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston. She said, it's kind of hokey, which by today's standards, it kind of is. Unless you're a purist, like, you and I kind of appreciate it.
To me, it holds up.
It holds up, but for her, she doesn't like it. And she watched these movies and she said, oh my God, she was in tears saying, that is one of the best movies I ever seen. It's because you feel for these guys. And the apes, they're CG. The entirety of them is CG. But the CG is so convincing. Yeah. And the storytelling is so incredible that it just combines into something so emotional and so there's no other word for it. These are beautiful films. Right. Like that's just how I feel about it. They're just so beautiful.
I agree. So I mean, I'm giving my score. I don't know if you ever gave your score.
Yeah, 9, and you had a 9.5.
9.5. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I mean,
any other big favorite moments in this one? I know I said, when Caesar first speaks, one of my favorite moments. Any for you that stand
one
out?
Of the greatest to me action sequences of films of the 2010s is the Golden Gate Bridge scene, which we're seeing here. Incredible. The action so cool. And so well executed. You see scenes like this in almost every big action thriller sci-fi movie, and sometimes it's just lost in bright flashes and explosions. This, you clearly see almost every bit of action that happens and understand the reasoning behind it. It's not just apes rampaging through San Francisco. And there's a draw.
There's a draw, and part of that draw is, how about the side characters? Maurice, Koba are all introduced in this film. And it's not like, oh, that's another ape. It's like they have a backstory. You're emotionally connected to these side characters. And you're like, wow. And then when, there's one gorilla in this one that he befriends and he dies trying to save Caesar from a helicopter with a machine gun on it. And it's heartbreaking. It is so heartbreaking. I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. And you're right. This is a fantastic action sequence. And one actor we did not mention that we're going to be mentioning a lot, Andy Serkis. As Caesar. I mean, I don't know if you let me know what you think about this, Ryan. I think this man deserves an Oscar, but the Academy does not recognize performance capture. And I think this man deserves an Oscar for these three films.
And these films are not the only films he's done them for. He's sort of become the big name in Hollywood for motion capture.
Gollum, King Kong. Snoke in Star Wars.
Mhm.
He's does fantastic motion capture performances,
Yep.
and man, this is his greatest performance in my opinion. And
Yeah.
I mean, geez, it's fantastic to watch.
Really, really fantastic.
Do any other final thoughts here?
The last thing is I just love the end of this film.
the
I mean,
ending.
it's the credits.
Yeah.
But sort of, sets forward. We weren't sure, I think, when this one came out, if there was going to be a sequel or if this was just explaining how we got to Planet of the Apes.
I think it started off as they just wanted to explain how the apes took over,
the
but
spreading
it
of this
became more.
plague. Yeah, really, really exciting.
And a point you made when we watched it is, wow, man, this is real because we're in the pandemic now, and it was
we rewatched these during the pandemic, and I want to say definitely the end of this film into the opening montage sequence of the next film were really like chilling to see, because we rewatched these right in the heart of the pandemic, and it was like science fiction becoming reality.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. And one other moment from the ending I think we should end on here is, Caesar's final words to James Franco in this movie are incredible. He says, Caesar, let's go home. Come on, it's time to come home. And Caesar is home.
Yeah.
And then he watches and he leaves as all the apes climb the tree together.
Woods, yeah.
Man, it's so great. Just hearing Caesar talk in this movie, it feels so in the moment. I can't get enough of it, man.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we move on to our next one. So that's enough for Rise now. We're going to be moving on to the next film, that being Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And
you go ahead and kick this one off.
Let me kick this one off. Yeah. I thought that, after walking out of the theater in the first one, I thought, wow, how could they possibly top it? And, this is at the point when I was old enough, I started thinking, okay, what are the critics saying? What are reviewers saying? And people were saying it was a great movie. And I said, okay, well, could it top this one? This one was so dang good. Could it top it? And I sat in the theater with my dad. Me and my dad went alone to see this one. We said, we got to see it in theaters. We went and we saw it on the biggest screen we could find. And we watched a movie that we could not believe was this incredible. I thought this was an even better film than the first one. And as crazy as that sounds, something that at that point, I thought, wow, nothing can top Empire Strikes Back or Terminator 2 as far as sequels go. This is on that level for me. This is definitely on that level for me. I'm going to give Dawn of the Planet of the Apes a 9.5 out of 10. I really, really think this is an amazing film.
I respectfully disagree.
Okay.
I find this to be a great film. 8 out of 10. Could watch it over and over again. But maybe it's because we rewatched it as a trilogy back to back to back. Mm. But I find this one of the three to be somewhat of a filler story. Mm. Maybe it just doesn't have, to me, the magnitude of the story arcs that we see in Rise or we see in War. But I thought there were some really well executed scenes. I loved seeing the apes, how they were living. I thought that was really neat. And I understand how we got to really just planted the seeds for War. And there were some cool scenes, but all in all, I just found it to be not as plot heavy as Rise or War. Like I said, a really great film, can watch it again and again, just not on the level of those two for me.
Let me say this, Ryan.
Okay.
I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Simple plot in this one. Town of humans, apes.
Colony of apes, yeah.
How do they interact with each other? How do they find a way to coexist?
Right.
And for me, that's the beauty of this film. Okay. It's a simple plot, but there's so much depth to it. Right. Just based on the characters in this film. Let me say this. One of the reasons why I think this is one of the best movies of all time. Mm-hmm. Even though it's a 9.5 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10, it's still one of the best movies of all time because it has one of the greatest villains of all time. Koba in this film is, I think, on the level of your Darth Vader. It's on the level of your Thanos. I think every scene he's in is fantastic. You can't look away. He is so menacing. He is so intimidating.
I struggle with Koba.
How?
In this film? Because I feel like they make it a point in Rise and in the beginning of Dawn to show Koba's allegiance to Caesar. And I feel like it eventually ends.
That's the entire point of this movie. That's the entire point of that's the main theme of the movie, that Koba is loyal to Caesar, but Koba hates humans more than he's loyal to Caesar. And we get to see his loyalty tested. and we see Caesar try to convince people to, stay with him, even though humans keep making mistake after mistake after mistake, which leads me to my one negative. Let me get my negative out of the way here. I want to know what you think about this. The humans are dumb in this one.
Very.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But
that was definitely the weakest part of this, is we have such a brilliant performance from James Franco. And once again, when we get to war, we have such a brilliant performance by, help me out here.
Harrelson?
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson.
I think that the humans in this one, they didn't need to be in the movie. And
very
they
weak.
Figured it out by the third one, but let's not get into that.
Yeah.
But it feels like every time that there's a scene where there's no apes and only humans, when we're in that city or when we're just with this one family that we're named, like,
right.
It's like, I don't care. I want to get back to Caesar.
Without
I care about him more than the humans right now.
Without a doubt.
And I think that's the one flaw with this movie, is that they just thought that there was part of them, the filmmaker, director Matt Reeves is one of my favorite directors. He's directing the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. Yep. Which is one of the reasons why I'm so excited to see that, is because I loved his previous movies, these two, this and War so far. But man, I don't know. It's just like, I feel like he wasn't bold enough until the third one to say, we can't have the story only be about the apes yet. It has to have some sort of humans.
I think that was my biggest flaw with this one. Was Rise, incredible storyline of interaction between apes and humans.
It was the best of both worlds.
War, we had some great interaction between apes and humans. This one, the interaction just wasn't there for me. Like you said, loved every scene that was, in the apes colony and the ape conflict. But yeah,
Caesar and his family. And one of the most impressive parts about this movie, there's long stretches with no dialogue, just complete silence, and just watching these apes interact and talk with each other and signal to each other. You can't look away. It's fantastic. It's not only because there's subtitles on
maybe that's why. I never thought about that, but maybe that's what makes some of these movies without dialogue. We just watched A Quiet Place. Why you can't look away, because you're gonna miss what they're saying because there's no actual dialogue. Maybe it's a cop out.
You're onto something there, but maybe I don't know. It's just, the directing is so incredible. And once again, the CGI.
Yeah.
If you thought the CGI in the first one was good, this one is even better.
Yep. And they get better with every one.
With every one, they get better. And I mean, this is another fantastic performance from Andy Serkis.
Yep.
Another fantastic performance from Koba, the actor that plays Koba. I mean, man, such a great film.
Yep.
Like we said, I think it's Jason Clarke is in this one. That's and I have it right in front of me. Jason Clarke and who else? Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman is like the leader of the town.
Yeah.
They are the downsides in this one, the human characters. But seeing the battle for the city, seeing all the apes get killed, and seeing the apes finally use guns is something incredible to watch. And seeing them ride the horses with the guns and seeing an all-out battle, seeing these apes gruesomely murdered and seeing the humans gruesomely murdered by the apes. This film was not afraid to shy away from violence, and I love it.
Let's put it out there too. The action sequence, the final battle between Koba and Caesar on the construction site or whatever it is, the built tower, is incredible.
Yeah. And I love how this one is bookended. And let me know if you were reminded of this. It opens with a very, very tight close-up on Caesar's eyes, right? And then it zooms out and you see him hunting in the trees.
Yes.
Then it closes with a zoom in on his face as he looks out, and they say war has begun. That's like, I just think that it's a great bookend to start and end the film. Really great. One thing that I really liked about this one too is how it connected to the first one. They didn't forget about the first film. Caesar gets injured in this one and he heads back to his family home.
Yeah.
And he looks at a picture of James Franco and he says, this was a good man. And it just kind of furthers the theme that, yes, humans can be good. Apes can also be as bad as humans.
Right.
There's lots of deep, complex morality here. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but I wrote a paper on this in college about apes and how they talk in languages and how the complexity of the morality in these films. Really impressive in that aspect. But any other big scenes in this one you wanted to point out?
No, I think without a doubt, like I said, I really like the intro to this film and learning about the ape society.
Yeah.
And then to me, there was just a lot of filler in the middle, a lot of intercutting with the human colony that kind of bummed me out.
But then to the apes.
Getting it at the end, that final battle, as we've said, first for the city and then between Koba and Caesar, are truly incredible scenes.
Yeah.
Just wish, we had some better, more than just filler in the middle third of this film.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
But still a great film and something I could watch again and again and again.
Of course. Yeah. But 8 out of 10, by no means a bad score.
Right. Of course.
By no means a bad score. Like we were saying, this is one of the best trilogies ever, man. It's not like there's not a single movie where you're like, wow, don't watch that one. It's like you have to watch all of them. They're so good.
Right.
But let's move on to this next one. I mean, I'll preface this. I'm very interested to know what you think of this one. We haven't talked about this one yet.
Yeah.
We've both discussed our opinions personally on these two, but I haven't heard what Ryan thinks about this one. Let me just set this up. Maybe I'm putting my expectations too high out of here, but this is one of not only one of, but this for me is consistently. You ask me what are my 5 favorite films of all time. This is always number 5, no matter what other films. Sometimes I have Dark Knight at the top. Sometimes I have Empire Strikes Back at the top. This is always in my top 5. This always sits at number 5. This was a special experience to me. I watched it in the theater with, the biggest TV, the biggest screen I could find, the best sound I could find. And I went with my mom and my dad. We all watched it together because my mom, she watched the first 2 before we went and saw it. So we did a little bit of a, overnight binge, and we watched this third one and I was blown away. This is a 10 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
I adore this film. I need to know what you think about this one.
I thought this was an excellent film.
Okay.
Once again, it's you'll find for me hard pressed. I would say maybe not top 5 for me, but top 25 films all time for me. I would put Rise.
Okay.
And for me, it's hard to top Rise. But I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10.
Got it.
I thought it was an excellent film. Definitely a must see for any of you who have not seen it. I think you actually, so I did not see this one in theaters. The first time I watched this one was during the pandemic because like I said, I saw Rise. I saw, to me, a decline in Dawn, and I was just worried it was going to continue downhill. So I did not see this one in theaters, but went, like I said, saw it, with Dom during the pandemic. Yeah. And I was not disappointed. You prefaced it for me as somewhat of almost a Holocaust or concentration camp film. I don't know that I would go that far necessarily.
There's definitely the allegory there.
I think the conflict is incredible. And I think my favorite part about this film is that it comes full circle with why, not just why apes are intelligent in our original film, but how humans became primal. And the fact that they touched on that is what, to me, the continuity and, like I said, it's still pretty much a consistent storyline. These 3 films going right into the 1968 Planet of the Apes that just blew my mind and why I love this film. Once again, there's some slow parts for me of this film. The part where you have, Caesar, Maurice, Rocket, and Bad Ape.
Bad Ape, yes.
Bad Ape wandering around the snow. We're kind of slow scenes.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people. You're not alone on saying that.
And that's why I give this a 9 out of 10 and just a tick below Rise, was because those sequences in the snow, and I'll be honest, I really didn't like Bad Ape. It was kind of annoying.
I thought that's a character that, they risk, people saying, oh, he's dumb, but I thought it was perfully executed.
I almost felt like he was comic relief, and I was like, this is a really serious movie. Why do we need comic relief?
That's what he is. He is the comic relief.
Yeah, and I didn't think this film needed a comic relief. I don't think they had much comic relief in Dawn. I mean, I guess the monkeys playing with the guns and then shooting the humans.
Sometimes, I see what you're saying.
It was like, let's smack him in the face with a funny ape, and I was like, that's not really necessary. But everything else about story,
he had a great story that he was from another part of the country, and yet he could still talk.
Right.
And it seems that the simian flu also enhanced the intelligence of the apes that weren't in Caesar's pack.
Right.
And it affects the humans negatively. Like you said, they're unable to speak in this film, some of them, and especially the little girl they find. And, I want to comment on what you said here, that there's the beginning of this film is really exciting. It starts with an incredible battle in the forest. Yeah. Just watching that, seeing that not only it's the humans that have mobilized an entire, military group to kill these apes, but some of the apes have betrayed Caesar
Yeah,
and they've
yeah.
joined the other side.
Yeah.
And that adds
Oh,
so
they
much
call them
complexity.
donkeys, right?
They call them
Yeah.
donkeys.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it just really makes you think a
Mhm.
lot about, who we are as humans. I
Mhm.
think that's what the best part about these films is that they're extremely thought-provoking.
Yeah.
They're so deep. I mean, they're just so deep for me. I love thinking about it.
It's odd, definitely. I will say that I caught myself quite a bit this second time through watching it. Well, you're rooting for the downfall of humanity. You're rooting for these apes.
And that's what the greatest feat of these films is that you're like, wow, humans suck.
Yeah.
And they've made so many mistakes. These apes, I care for them.
Yeah.
But one of the redeeming factors of this film is that they did prove once again, not all the humans are bad. There's good in humanity, and they show that in this little girl, which is where a lot of people will say this movie gets slow, where it's just them, they find the little girl, and then they go on this revenge mission.
Right.
And it's just them trekking to find this guy, Woody Harrelson, and kill him, the commander. And there's a lot of them, some people might say that it's just them walking from point A to point B.
Yeah.
I could not disagree more.
See, that's right. I mean, you recall
so
too
complex.
when we watched it, I fell asleep during that part, and then I finally sort of came to and was like, okay, let's pause it and watch tomorrow. When they finally get to the camp with all the apes and they're figuring out how they're going to infiltrate it, and that's where to me it started to speed up again. And I love everything with Woody Harrelson's camp.
I love Woody Harrelson in this movie, but for me, it's Caesar's movie, and this is why this movie is so incredible. Is that you don't need any of the humans in this movie. There's no exposition like there was in Dawn or in Rise. There's no exposition where James Franco is explaining, Caesar, here's where you came from. I worked at this lab, and then your mother died, and now I took you here and I raised you. It's like, okay, we just watched that. It's not negative against it. It's just all movies have that.
Yep.
But what's so incredible about this movie is there's no scenes like that in this one. It's just, here's our story. Let me show you.
There are a couple, incredible. But I think they're well executed. Like when Woody Harrelson is explaining how his son went primal.
There's one.
Yeah.
There's one. That's all I could find.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's one. And that's what's so incredible.
That and Bad Ape explaining where he came from.
Yeah. But that's kind of more of his backstory.
Right.
But I mean, man, that's what's so incredible. And it's Caesar's story. There's no family that you're watching on the side, like Jason Clarke's family. There's no James Franco and John Lithgow. It's Caesar's story. It's him trying to combat himself and fight with this darkness inside of him, something very human.
Yeah.
And it's just, I can't get enough of it, man. And let me just say this now. You thought the CG was good in the first two films? I sound like a broken record.
I mean,
this is real.
Agreed.
It's real. You look in the eyes of these apes and you go, my God, it's the best CG I've ever seen.
Right. Yeah.
It's so cool. But I've talked too much. I love this film too much. I need to know what you think more about this one.
Yeah. Like I said, I think 90% of this film, which is why I'm giving it a 9 out of 10, is pure gold. Like I said, I talked about my nitpicks here, but there are, we talked in the other ones, pick some favorite scenes. I don't know that I have a favorite scene, because with the exception of the scene of, like you said, point A to point B, everything in the beginning of this film, incredible. And everything from the point that the group of four and the little girl get to the camp, incredible. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it was a little bit, like I said, slow at that portion for me, where the four of them are on their mission, the revenge mission, to go and revenge or find Caesar's family, and their pack.
Yeah.
But otherwise, to me, this is a 9 out of 10, and
a must see for Ryan.
A must see without a doubt. Yeah.
And one thing that I think we haven't talked about so far, the soundtracks in all these, the musical scores are all incredible, but this one is the standout for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings to mind my favorite scene at the beginning of the movie. It sets up everything that you need to know in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Caesar's wife and son get murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Caesar locks eyes with Woody Harrelson just after he assassinates his family, because he thinks that his son is him. And he locks eyes with him, and we get boom, 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 boom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like this incredible drum beat.
Yeah.
And it's boom, Woody Harrelson's eyes, Caesar's eyes, Woody Harrelson, Caesar, and it's just like incredible. The directing is fantastic. It
Yeah.
gets you so into it, and then he just chases after him and jumps into a freaking
The
waterfall off a cliff,
Yep.
catches the rope and tries to climb it to chase him after him. It's like from there on, I was like, this is going to be the greatest movie, one of the greatest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the musical score is incredible.
Excellent. Yep.
And Caesar's journey in the, for lack of a better word, the concentration camp.
Yeah.
Seeing the apes mistreated, seeing him try to rally them together, and seeing Woody Harrelson knock him down at every point. And the fact that it's the little girl that brings him, some food and water, and brings back his hope, is so beautiful. I cry every time. The music is beautiful. The piano in this film is incredible, not just the drums. It is beautiful. And then, of course, that's what makes this film so amazing for me. There's quiet moments of great beauty, but then it's not afraid to turn it up to 11 with Caesar dodging a freaking missile and launching a spear into a guy's freaking chest. It is fantastic for that reason. The avalanche at the end is a very high point of contention. One of my roommate from college, Hunter Powers, he says, dude, the avalanche, it came at the wrong time. Like, I wanted to see them take on that entire army. I was like, no, that kind of defeats the point, a little bit. The avalanche was kind of the end. It was the apes can now move on. And any other thoughts on the concentration camp scene?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head.
How about the final scene of this film? I need to know what you think. How is that handled?
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Caesar's dying and dies.
Caesar dies at the end of this film.
Very, and I know it's earlier, but very Thanos-esque at the end of not Endgame, but Infinity War. He's done it. He's brought the remainder of his colony to peace, and he is at peace, and he sort of fades out of consciousness, as we'd assume, looking over that colony and watching the sunset on his colony.
And he talks to Maurice. The final conversation between him and Maurice is so beautiful. So well done. And Maurice finally speaks. Here in this last scene, he said, your son will know your story. And I think that is just the perfect way to end this trilogy. And I want to launch off here, Ryan, for our final thoughts on these here. Of course, you guys know my ranking. It goes number 1, War, number 2, Dawn, number 3, Rise. What's your ranking?
Number 1, Rise, number 2, War, and number 3, Dawn.
Got it. Okay.
So very, very different from our rankings, but something we can both agree on is this is an incredible, incredible trilogy. Possibly the greatest trilogy of the 2010s.
Absolutely.
I would say. I mean, obviously haven't had the time to look up other film trilogies that came out in that time. I guess with the exception of the new Star Wars trilogy, and I would put this above that.
I would definitely say this is above that.
But this is they're extremely great films, all great or above from me, and all incredible or above from Dom. And bravo to Matt Reeves.
Yes.
Bravo to Andy Serkis and his fellow castmates in the rest of these films, whether it's James Franco, John Lithgow,
any of
Jason
the
Clarke,
actors that play the apes. I mean, all the actors that had to do the motion capture. Wow, what a phenomenal cast here.
And just watching these, I mean, if their goal, like we said at the beginning in the lead-in, was to get people to go back and watch the originals, I'm juiced. I watch these. We watch these with my girlfriend, now my fiance, Caitlin.
Oh yeah.
But
recorded an episode since you proposed.
But I'm excited. I want to watch the 1968 one with her, which she's never seen, because it leads you right into it.
It does. Speaking of leading right in, they're going to continue.
I did not know that. No.
Okay, you haven't read about that. They're continuing to make these films.
Okay.
Completely different director, of course. Matt Reeves is busy with the Batman.
Of course.
But he did say that it's going to continue on the story in some way. I think they left it off perfectly in this one, but
I agree.
I don't know. Maybe they could surprise us yet again. I mean, I said it not only once, but twice, that, wow, how could they top that?
Right.
But they did it. So it's like, okay, I get it. So maybe, but they did say, Andy Serkis is not going to be involved. It's going to be a different story. It's going to be, 20, 30 years later, whatever you want to insert time jump here. We'll see what happens, but I am going to be in the theater to watch it. No matter how good or bad it is, I'm going to be in the theater to watch it. and I'm going to review it. And hopefully I'll review it with
Yeah,
you.
without a doubt. Yeah. So I think that'll wrap it up for our Planet of the Apes discussion. We got a lot of great content coming for you guys. Of course, big one coming up. A Quiet Place Part 2 hitting theaters this Friday. So we'll be watching that and then getting a review for you, probably of both films, A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place Part 2.
We'll do like a combo.
Right.
episode.
Yeah, like we just did with this trilogy. I just watched A Quiet Place for the first time a couple of days ago in preparation. As you guys know, you may remember from our Halloween series, I'm not a huge horror suspense guy, but I was intrigued enough by the
Ryan
first
had
film.
nightmares after he watched it.
I
Poor
did.
guy.
But I was intrigued enough to go see the second one.
Yeah.
Especially because it sounds like they're going to be jumping back in time and getting us a little bit more backstory on how everything got to where it was in day 400, whatever it was in the first one.
And our promise for our fans here, animated series reviews. We got to get some more cartoon reviews out. Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yep, coming up soon, followed by Korra.
We're in season 2 of Korra right now. We'll get that one out soon. But coming up immediately is Rick and Morty.
Yeah, we're about halfway through season 4 right now. And once we finish that up, before the premiere of season 5, we'll be back with a review of our series.
Do you know I've never watched Rick and Morty live, but you've watched it live.
Yes.
Is it week to week?
It's week to week.
Okay, so
week to week on Cartoon Network.
We could definitely do a weekly review when it comes to season 5.
I'm curious to see how they do it with HBO Max, or if we'll get it week to week there, or how they're going to do it. If we're going to have to just stream it through the Cartoon Network app or the Adult Swim app.
Right. Yeah. But we'll be there watching it because you know what, guys, I was surprised, but we'll save that for the review. But I was surprised by Rick and Morty. Season 4 is not my favorite so far, but there's a lot to talk about those first 3 seasons. A lot to discuss, a lot to rank. So we'll be out with our Rick and Morty review very, very soon, along with a couple more Christian Bale reviews, because it turns out you guys like that American Psycho review. Yeah. So we got The Prestige, we got Ford versus Ferrari, and maybe we'll find another Christian Bale movie to watch along the way. But
absolutely, So a lot of good stuff coming for you. Maybe some new food content as well. Everyone talking about the chicken sandwich wars. So maybe we'll be coming with that soon, a different chicken sandwich sampling. Yes. But lots of great content for you guys. So thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe. For those of you listening on our podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. And then be sure to reach out to us on social media. Our links are down in the bio. Shoot us a message, what you'd like to see from us, anything that we're missing that you'd like us to review. Of course, last thing, Loki coming in less than a month. So we'll be bringing you the week by week Loki reviews like we did for Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision. So stay tuned for that as well.
All right, guys, we'll see you on the next episode of Top of the List.
Later.